This video was brought to you by the lovely members of my Patreon.
I very, very nervously, and I was so nervous and so scared. I very nervously was like, so I'm really interested in you. I'm having a really good time, but we haven't had a formal conversation about me being transgender. Hey guys, it's Kat and it's time for another episode of True Tea. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me here for yet another episode of True Tea. Those of you guys who are coming back, those of you guys who are new, if you're into learning, sharing, and growing through education and conversation, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. We would love to have you. Anyway, it's been a week since I've seen you. What have you guys been up to? What have you guys been doing? This past weekend, I went to the Vintage Theater down the street and I watched Birds of Prey, and I have to say, it was very gay, and I support the hell out of that. I mean, Harley was confirmed bisexual. Renee Montoya, who is canonically lesbian, confirmed in the show. I just love it. I just love the homosexuality that seeps out through the pores of that movie. I mean, Huntress, who is like my favorite part of the whole thing, very gay. I mean, not explicitly gay, but like very gay. You know what I mean? Like you're like, are you a friend of Sappho? It was very that. Do you know what I mean? Like it was kind of that, and I love it. I was here for it. Totally support it. Only issue I kind of had with the movie was Black Canary, who I think Journey did like a really great job. But I don't know, I'm just used to a certain Black Canary, and I didn't know why she didn't ride a motorcycle. I just thought that was odd. But otherwise, it was a really fun film. It wasn't too deep. The fight scenes were amazing. The costuming was amazing. Women designing costumes for women, you know, I just love that. And the boys are mad. So even if I think it wasn't like the most amazing film, I'm supporting it. So yeah, if you guys saw it, I would love to know what you guys have to say. Anyway, we're gonna be having a conversation in this video about something that I've been processing recently, because I recently told a guy that I was transgender, and it kind of went differently than I was expecting it to go. So I thought that we would have that conversation, but before we do, I'm gonna go to my kitchen and grab myself something to drink. Now, personally, I am drinking some green tea. We are in the struggle zone with tea right now. I don't have any tea other than this Lipton that I've had for a really long time. If you guys, you know, like tea, let me know what you guys are drinking. I'm looking for new tea to drink. I'm kind of trying to avoid just going and repurchasing my Teavana, even though I'm really into that. You know, I don't know. Anyway, let me sip this tea and let's get right into this video. So, if for some reason this is the first video of mine that you're clicking on, I guess I should introduce myself. My name's Kathryn, I'm transgender, and I make a lot of videos about dating and romance and just navigating the world as a transgender person. And a couple of weeks ago, I made a video specifically responding to Nikki Tutorials coming out as transgender. And if you guys remember the sort of story with that, she had a little bit of a conversation in that video about coming out to her partner as transgender. She expressed to her partner that, you know, she didn't initially express to her partner that she was transgender, and that was a whole conversation that she had to have. And in the video that I made, I referenced that I had two men currently in my life who I was seeing who did not know that I was transgender, and that would be a conversation that I would have to have. And with one of those men, I have had that conversation, and I wanted to kind of tell you about some of the things that went through my head in this moment, because this was truly like a big sort of moment for me, because it made me think a lot about stuff. So yeah, this is gonna be more of a self-reflective video than a video where I'm saying anything interesting. So this is definitely gonna be one of those I would love to hear how you guys feel kind of videos. So yeah. So I guess let's kind of establish some stuff. I know that there's a lot of people who watch my channel who really get, I don't know if I want to say annoyed by me talking about passing, but there's definitely people who are like, okay, Kat, you mentioned this in every video. Why do you talk about it so much? Why is it something that you always bring up? If you really passed, you wouldn't talk about it so much. And you know, I'll be honest with you guys, I've kind of always had to navigate around the conversations that I have with my YouTube channel and what my actual life is. Some of you guys know that I transitioned on YouTube. I've had a YouTube channel since I was 15 years old, and I, started my transition at 16. And so I have kind of had this sort of thing where I've fallen into this feedback loop because frankly, I've always felt more comfortable talking about certain things with you guys than with anyone in my actual life. You guys, strangely enough, have an incredibly intimate relationship with me that frankly, the vast majority of people in my life do not have. In fact, one of the men that I'm currently dating, he actually pointed out that like he wanted me to be more like I am in my videos when I'm around him, right? Because I guess I'm a little bit more guarded in front of him. And I guess that's kind of one of the big things I want to talk about. It's just kind of like the way that I navigate the world as a transgender person, being very aware of, I guess, the fact that I don't know. It's weird. I, on one hand, feel like I very much fit in. I, to be honest with you, I don't necessarily feel, in terms of my gender, like an outsider, right? In terms of my race, I often feel like an outsider, but I don't feel like an outsider in terms of my gender, right? But at the same time, I am trans, and that does sort of complicate some of the conversations that I have. And regardless of how many people say this to me on YouTube, the reality is that most people who interact with me do not know that I'm transgender. Now, I was trying to make a video about Nikki tutorials, but it didn't really come out the right way, so I'm not gonna upload it. I don't know, maybe I will, I don't know. But one of the things that I get all the time is people who will click on my videos and be like, I can totally tell that you're transgender. I can totally tell that you're transgender. And the relevance with Nikki tutorials was, Nikki tutorials who transitioned very young and obviously developed certain features because of that, right? There are people who are like, oh, I could tell, oh, I could tell, oh, I could look right at you and see this and see that. I read a comment the other day that was like, I have a really hard time seeing you as female because I keep seeing all these masculine features. And one of the funny things about that, I think when you're a transgender person, you're very aware of perception, and you're very aware of the fact that people will see you differently based on kind of where you are. My parents, right, who raised me, when they look at me, they see their son, right? They don't really see me as who I am today. They see their son, right? That's their perception of me. And I've been in several situations where, my mom and I will go somewhere and, people are gendering me properly, and it's something that's odd for her to hear, right? Because that's not her perception of me, right? When somebody is transgender, you're gonna look extra hard for tells. You're gonna look extra hard for tells, right? And there's a whole other conversation to be had here about why that's messed up and why that's wrong, and how oftentimes those tells that people try to read are based on a lot of very white supremacist standards of beauty, but we're not here to have that conversation. We're not here to have that conversation, right? At the end of the day, what I will say, I rhymed there. At the end of the day, what I will say is that it is just kind of my standard for people to not know that I'm transgender, and for that to be a thing that I have to navigate through. And obviously passing is a privileged thing, being able to be taken as my gender is not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. There are so many worse things. Having people respect me immediately for my gender is a very privileged thing that I do enjoy, I suppose, right? But it does complicate things when it comes to my relationships, because on one hand, I'm very solidly in this position of, I do not want to have to convince men that my body is worth it. I don't want to have to convince men to be attracted to me if they're not. If you're not attracted to me, you're not attracted to me, and that's okay. I don't want to sit there and give you the power to decide that this relationship isn't going to happen, right? I don't want to do that. I want to be on equal footing, so that if we don't connect and we don't get along, I want it to be because we don't connect and get along, not because you just can't accept that I'm transgender. So I have that side of me, but there's also the side of me that is very social, that goes out a lot, that meets men who are attracted to me and don't know that I'm transgender, and I have to kind of figure out how to have that conversation. And in a way, this is made even more complicated by the fact that I have a YouTube channel, you know? And so I'm not in the way that I used to be when I was younger, hiding, I guess you could say, my transness. I'm not trying to be stealth. I'm not actively denying it. I'm a very openly transgender person. It is not a secret, right? But because I transitioned so long ago, and because, as I've said on this channel before, because so many of these conversations just kind of feel irrelevant in my direct life, I just don't find myself jumping into, I don't find myself out like just immediately telling people that I'm transgender. I just don't. It feels very forced. It feels like something that usually isn't relevant in most of the situations that I'm in. One of the things I talked about in the Nikki tutorials video is that, you know, I don't always immediately tell men that I'm transgender because I don't even know if I'm interested. You know, I think a lot of cis people think that the way that this should work is that the moment a man expresses attraction to you, you need to tell them that you're transgender, right? And what I've discussed in the past is that sometimes for me, that's a little bit more complicated because, you know, by virtue of me existing in so many sex positive spaces, so many kink spaces, you know, and I go to these goth parties and things like that. Like I'm in so many situations where someone's really aggressively expressing attraction to me, and I don't really know where that can go. I don't really know how telling this person no or telling this person that I'm trans, I don't really know where that can always go. So I'm not always going to be a person who puts myself in those positions and, you know, just tell somebody because that might not be safe. And so for me, safety is always really important. So in general, if a man that I meet out and about is interested in me, I will try to get to know him. I will try to hang out with him a little bit and just kind of suss out who he is as a person before I tell him that I'm transgender, right? And so with the two men that I mentioned, I've told one of those men. I haven't told the other man because we're not connecting like that anymore. So it is what it is. But with this other guy, and this is kind of where we're at, that was a little different. So I guess I'll kind of tell you about this guy so that we can kind of get into some of the thoughts that I've had, right? So yeah. So we're gonna call this guy Alexander, right? Alexander moved to LA a couple months ago. And he is honestly, he's a very, 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 very handsome man. And he works on, well, I won't say where he works, but he's an engineer and he works at a pretty important company. And he is incredibly smart. And one of the things that I've recognized that turns me on about men is when they like to build things, when they like to create things. I love when a man loves to tinker and loves to sort of make something out of nothing. To me, there's almost nothing sexier than that, right? And he just is the kind of guy, like I was on his page today and he's making leather belts and things. Like he's just the kind of guy who does that stuff. And I find that so incredibly sexy, right? And he's, you know, he's 6'4", he's very, 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 very tall, very, very, very good looking. He doesn't have a beard. And you guys know how I feel about beards. He does not have a beard, but he's really, really, really cute. And the thing is, he's the kind of guy who he looks like the way he looks, he could be a total asshole. Like, I think about this a lot when I look at him. It's like, if he was cocky and had an ego, he could totally be an asshole, like a total fucking douchebag, right? But he's such a sweetheart. He's such a sweetheart, and he's so nice. So I met Alexander through this poly meetup that I go to all the time, and I couldn't really tell if he was interested in me. I couldn't really tell if he was attracted to me. I wasn't really sure how he felt. Especially because there was a time where I very aggressively kind of was like, hey, we should hang out sometime. And he didn't necessarily respond. And so I was a little bit like, I don't know, like I was interested, but when he didn't really respond after that, I was like, okay, he's not interested in me in that way. And that's a-okay, that's fine, right? But when I moved into this apartment, a bunch of my outlets were broken. And it was a really, really annoying thing. Like, this apartment, it's cool, I like it. It's a much, much, much smaller apartment than the one I lived in before, but it is a nice apartment and I do like it, but it was really hard to get someone to come out and fix these damn outlets, and it really shouldn't have been that hard. It really, truly, and honestly should not have been that hard, but it was, right? And so, I posted on my Facebook page, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going through this, it's really, really annoying, I'm really, really frustrated. And he decided that he wanted to come over and help me. He wanted to teach me how to fix my own outlets, right? Which I think is kind of an important distinction, right? And so he comes over and, you know, he's got his like tool, you know, he's got his tool belt on and things, and he just looks so cute and sexy. And he's just, like I said, he's so tall and handsome, but he's such a dork. He's such a dork, and like, it's so cute. And so he opens up the outlets over and he kind of shows me how to do the thing. And I'm like super appreciative that he's like coming over and helping me out and things like that. But I still don't know if he's attracted to me. I mean, I guess I should have assumed that this guy coming over to help me out when I'm in a state of distress, I guess I should have assumed that he was attracted to me, but I thought he was just kind of like being a nice guy, especially because, like I said, in the previous interactions I had with him, I had very kind of aggressively said, hey, you and I should spend time with each other. And he kind of didn't really respond. So I didn't really know how to read him. I really didn't know how to read him, right? And so he came over, fixed my outlets. And then after he fixed it and he was on his way out, he said, you know, you and I should hang out sometime. And it was such a cute moment. And I was kind of like, I don't know, my heart went a little pitter patter. Like I was kind of having a really intense kind of like moment. I don't know. It was like, I guess, do you know what it is, guys? I'm so used to kind of going about dating through the internet that there's so many things about like meeting a guy at an event and dating through there that like is still so foreign to me. I'm not used to meeting men in my daily life. I mean, that's not true. I am used to meeting men in my daily life. I'm also very used to sabotaging those relationships or pushing those men away because oftentimes those men don't know that I'm transgender, right? And so there's still so much about how that actually goes that I'm still navigating through and figuring out for myself, right? But when he asked me out, I was like, yeah, we should totally do that. And we planned way ahead of time and things like that. And we eventually went on our first little date. He took me to this Indian restaurant. We ate Indian food and it was really, really cute. And he's just such a sweetheart, such a sweetheart. And we came back to my place and, you know, we drank Goon. Because I have the whole thing of Goon over there. I need to get a new thing of it actually. But we drank Goon and we talked and we got along really, really well. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm having a really, really good time with this guy, but he doesn't know that I'm trans. He doesn't know that I'm trans, right? And so the anxiety starts to set in a little. I'm attracted to this guy. He is really, really, really attractive. He's really, really, really cute. He's really, really sweet. I really do want to continue to see him, but he doesn't know that I'm trans. And to be honest with you guys, here's kind of what's standard. Like I said, for me and the people that I meet, I'm really, really used to meeting men who are attracted to me when they meet me, then like add me on my private Facebook. And I don't really post a lot about being transgender. I do make posts here and there. And if you click through like my pictures on Facebook, there is like one of those like trans things on there. So it's not like a secret, but it's really not something I talk about. And there's plenty of people in my life right now who interact with me all the time, but don't know that I'm trans, right? So that's my personal situation, right? But again, it's not a secret. It's just something I don't really talk about. But anyway, I'm really used to meeting men who are attracted to me, who say they're interested in me, adding them on, you know, any various social media website, them finding out that I'm transgender, and then their interest dissipating. That is what I am very, very, very used to. And so I guess I've just become really accustomed to being disliked in that way. Or I become really, I mean, the thing that's kind of fucked up about passing, right, especially when you're in the communities that I'm in, where desirability is like right at the forefront. It is a very immediate thing that you see and interact with almost immediately. I'm in a lot of situations where men are aggressively expressing attraction to me up until the point they know that I'm trans. You know, and for me, that's always really complicated and frustrating because you see where your relationship could go. You see that this man, if you were cisgender, would have treated me, you know, would have just totally treated me like a queen, right? But because I'm trans, that changes things, right? And to be honest with you guys, that's really frustrating. It's frustrating not because I don't respect men's preferences, but it is hard to be in a position where men are telling you that they're attracted to you. Men are saying that they're interested in you. Men are, you know, expressing that they want to spend time with you, that they would date you, that they would do that. You know, they are doing that, right? But then what ends up happening is, oh, wait, you're trans, never mind. It hurts. It hurts. And I'm in that situation a lot. So to be honest, he asked me out on a second date. I agreed, but I was nervous. I was very, 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 very nervous, right? So we go on our second date. He takes me to this little noodle place, and we split an order of pad C, which I thought was kind of cute. And then we go karaoke. I live really close to a karaoke bar, so we go karaoke, and it was just so cute. And he's the kind of person who he just really, really likes kissing me. And we're like making out in the middle of the bar, and his kisses are so cute, and they're so like adorable. And he's this big man, so it's kind of like a funny dichotomy, right? And you know, I'm having an amazing time with this handsome guy who I guess in my mind is like way out of my league, right? Like super, super way out of my league, right? Which is so silly because he's, you know, no one's out of my league, but you know how you go and have those little insecurities where you think, oh, this person's amazing, I'm not good enough. I guess that's what I was starting to think, especially as the night went on. So rinse and repeat, we come back to my place and we're making out and we're drinking goon, and things definitely do start to get a little hot and heavy. Now, this is where things get complicated for me because I'm still figuring out how to navigate around this stuff. I don't really, you know, when I got into my last relationship, I was really thankful because I thought I would never have to have these conversations ever again. I would never, ever be in situations where this would even be a thing I would think about. In fact, I would go on social media and brag as much as that. Oh, I don't deal with telling people that I'm trans because I'm, you know, in a monogamous relationship and the only people who need to know are the people who are fucking me, right? And clearly this is a guy who wanted to fuck me, you know? And I just found myself being so nervous and feeling so guilty because obviously as we start getting intimate, he should know. He should know that I'm trans. He should know that and he should be aware of that, right? And so I probably shouldn't tell you guys this part of the story, but I'm going to because it's kind of important. We're making out and it does get pretty hot and heavy. And at some point, I feel his situation. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but it was the biggest penis I've ever felt in my entire life. And not to sound too disgusting, but like, I felt a fair amount of penises in my life and all of my partners are very well endowed, right? His dick, I mean, but like longer and thicker. I'm not joking, I'm not exaggerating, right? It was a kind of feeling where I was low-key like, I'm intrigued, but I don't know if this is possible, you know? Not to overshare, but I am perpetually very, very, very tight. And I'm always very surprised when any of my partners manage to have sex with me. So This is so oversharing. But like, I was scared. And for some reason, that was the thing that started me feeling like this was an important conversation to have. Because to be honest with you guys, I mean, at that point, it's like, listen, he's a tall, handsome guy who rides a motorcycle, is an engineer, and has a huge dick. It's just too good to be true, right? And so I very, very nervously, and I was so nervous and so scared. I very, 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 very nervously was like, so I'm really interested in you. I'm having a really good time, but we haven't had a formal conversation about me being transgender. You know, and here's the thing. In past situations where I've had this conversation, it really can go any way. You know, I've had a lot of experiences, obviously, where when I tell a guy that I'm transgender, he's not interested anymore. And does that hurt? Sure. But like I said earlier in this video, am I someone who wants to stick around at this point in my life and convince a man that I'm worth it? No. So I'm not necessarily, you know, that bummed out when a guy says it's not his thing, because I'm like, well, I don't want to convince you that it is, you know, so it's fine that it's not working out that way, right? But I guess you could say in so many ways, I am kind of used to, once I tell a guy that I'm trans, that being the end of the conversation. And I guess in so many ways, there have been times where I have told men that I'm trans just to get them to leave me alone. And I fully expect, so here's what happened, right? So I say this to him, and his reaction, you know, was like, well, that doesn't really change anything. It just kind of changes maybe how I satisfy you. And I genuinely almost like thought that I had like misheard what he said, because I think in so many ways I had convinced myself that the only answer that this particular guy was going to give me was, oh my God, no, or wow, you know, you're really beautiful. Thank you for telling me. It's not my thing. But he told me that like, well, so first of all, he said that. Then he said that he had like seen some Facebook posts that I made forever ago, because months ago, I did write one big Facebook post about me being transgender. Because I felt the need to come out to all the people that I had met in LA, because there were so many people who didn't know. So I did make a post that was like, hey, I'm trans, this is why I don't talk about it all the time, And so apparently he had seen that post, and before even asking me out on a date, because I think he initially didn't know, but then went on my Facebook and saw it, before he even asked me out on a date, he knew. He knew, and it wasn't something that bothered him. And that moment for me was a really, really, really interesting one, because what I caught myself honestly doing was self-sabotaging. Self-sabotaging by using my gender, because I guess I just believed that this kind of guy could never be interested in me. Could never be interested in me. I genuinely, without a doubt, thought that the only way this conversation could go is him rejecting me. And when he didn't, I almost didn't really know how to feel, because I think I had been so used to hitting that point with people that I didn't really know how to feel. I didn't really know where to go from there. Well, I'll tell you where we went from there. We had sex. It was, and you know what? Let me get really gross right now, because we're talking about it. I had to go out and buy. I had to go out and buy these condoms they're mega big boy XXL because we're dating and we're seeing each other now, and I just need that. So yeah, I mean, ultimately what ended up happening is we're still seeing each other, and we're both really, really excited about each other. And it's so weird because it's so mutual. And you know, he explained to me later, you know, I told you, I'd walked up to him and said, oh, we should get together sometime. And he didn't seem interested. What I interpreted as disinterest was him having a really, really big crush on me and really not knowing how to express that. And so it still feels so surreal. And I got when I went out for Valentine's Day when I was in Kalamazoo and I was alone, and I texted him all this shit and I told him all the stuff I'm telling you guys today about self-sabotage and things like that. And he was just like, you're so cute. And like, because genuinely I realized with time that I was trying to self-sabotage myself out of a relationship with someone who was attracted to me. And one of the things that I think I'm still processing is that men can be attracted to me as I am, as a trans person, and that's okay. You know, I think a lot of trans women, we spend so much time navigating around chasers because so many of us, we want to be taken as a cis woman and then convince a guy after the fact that being with a trans woman is okay, right? And you know, with time, I've started to sort of see that doesn't quite make a lot of sense. But I guess I'm still unpacking it. I'm still unpacking it because I am very used to people assuming that I'm a cis woman. I am very used to men having these weird conversations with me about my pussy and then being like, oh, I should probably tell them. That's my normal. That's my normal, right? My normal is with men being interested in me as a cis woman. It's not with them being interested in me as a trans woman. And this just a mind fuck. It just made me really think about what's going on in my mind where it makes sense for me to self-sabotage myself in that way. And why is me saying that I'm transgender self-sabotage? Especially with the perspective that I have of wanting men to like me and not wanting to convince them that my body is valid. You know, why is this a self-sabotaging technique for me? Why? And I guess maybe many ways I'm still trying to deprogram that like little bit of internalized transphobia. You know, at the same time, I know a lot of the ways that I feel really are just a result of the way my life is. You know, going back to some of the stuff I mentioned earlier in this video about, you know, people sort of telling me all types of stuff. I mean, I had so many comments talking about, you look exactly like a man. How would anyone not know that you're trans? I'm almost willing to bet that there are people who are gonna click on this video and be like, oh, I knew that you were trans the moment I clicked on this video, right? Good for you, right? That doesn't change the fact that this is still a really complicated conversation for me to navigate around. Like, it genuinely is complicated. It's so complicated. And I think people make it seem really simple. You know, I couldn't really be any more openly trans. I mean, I guess I could be more openly trans, but I couldn't be more openly trans without like feeling like I'm forcing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a transgender blogger, one of the very few that exists. If you Google Kathryn transgender blogger, you will find me. You're unlikely to find another, you know, I mean, there's a lot of Kathryns who are trans, but do you know what I mean? If you Google Kathryn, I'm probably gonna pop up as a blogger that makes, you know, I'm not closeted in the way that I was before. I'm not stealth in the way that I was before. I'm open, I'm out, right? And I guess it is really important for me to date men who are totally comfortable with that, right? But I guess in a way, I'm just not used to people liking me. And I think that that's something that I'm still processing. Like, some of you guys know, I've mentioned it a couple times, that I do sometimes really struggle with how I interact with my fans, you know, because I don't even know what this emotion is, but I don't really feel comfortable with people like celebrating me. It's always been an issue that I've had. And it's one of those issues that is kind of complicated given the sort of life that I live, right? I live a certain life where, yes, I come on here and I'm very, very visible and I say inspiring things, and so people feel a certain way. Then in my offline life, I exist in the kink world. I exist in the sex positive world where, you know, I'm largely praised for the way that I look. I'm not saying that to sound like an asshole or sound full of myself, but that's just the sort of space that I take up in these spaces. You know, like I told you guys a couple weeks ago, I was a go-go dancer at this big, you know, kink event. The kind of space that I tend to take up in these spaces is that of the young, desirable woman. And so there's a lot of contradiction there because I love being there. I don't necessarily love the complications of desirability and things like that, but I enjoy being in those spaces, being sexually liberated and free. And I guess maybe I do enjoy being desired. I think everybody does, right? But I almost never believe that it's genuine. And I know that a lot of that is me still unpacking the abuse that I've experienced, me still unpacking a lot of the ways in which men have gaslit me. It's hard for me to hear men say, "You're beautiful," and have me actually believe it. It truly is. I almost never believe anybody who compliments me. I almost never trust that anyone could genuinely be attracted to me or interested in me. It's hard, it's rough. I've yelled at so many men throughout my life who I know did not deserve it because I was so convinced that there's no way in hell you could genuinely, without an ulterior motive, without an agenda, be attracted to me. And so here I had this guy who, you know, embodied like all of these sort of beautiful things. He was is so sweet, attractive, nice, just a good man. And we have this really, really great connection, and he likes me, and that's hard for me to process. It's hard for me to process the genuineness of it because I guess I'm not used to that. So I kind of just wanted to sort of share that with you guys and just kind of leave you with those thoughts because I'm still processing that. I'm really still processing why self-sabotage for me is telling a guy that I'm transgender. Another sort of line of thought that I'm unpacking is how I've become very used to being the adversary. I've become very used to being the bad person, the bad guy, right? The villain in other people's stories, right? And so I think maybe for that reason, I have a hard time being liked. I mean, especially when you come from, you guys, we've talked about this, I don't identify as queer anymore, but coming from a very radical queer perspective, there is sort of like this disruptive nature. You expect to be disliked. You anticipate that people will reject you. You anticipate that you're going to confuse and piss people off. That is almost, you go in expecting that reaction. You go in expecting that response, right? And I think in so many ways, I still move through the world expecting that response, even though I'm very different now. And God, I mean, when I had that moment of, oh, this handsome guy who I'm really attracted to, who is super idealistic, is actually interested in me. Oh. And I almost didn't know what to do with that. I almost didn't know where to go with that. Because my pattern had always been, oh no, this guy could never, and telling him and being right. So, yeah. Like I said, I just want to leave you guys with those thoughts. I'm kind of curious if you guys do the same thing, if you guys have noticed self-sabotaging. I'm also curious to hear from women who have been abused, if they've, had a hard time trusting that other people can be genuine and real with you. I mean, I think so much of my survival has come from me being hyper vigilant and being really hyper aware of the fact that just because someone is trying to be nice to you and is at the very least seeming like they're trying to be nice to you doesn't mean that they don't want to hurt you. And so I guess I'm always on edge at all times, and I'm always just very aware of the fact that this person smiling in your face can hurt you. But I met this guy and he is amazing, and he has not, I can't even imagine him doing anything mean ever to anyone. He's just such a sweetheart. And I guess it's hard for me to accept that maybe that person actually does like me. So I worry about how many times I've self-sabotaged, how many times I've let good people pass through my life because I didn't just want to trust that they were actually interested in me, that they actually cared about me. I think about that a lot. So, yeah. Anyway, I think that's all we have to say in this video. If you made it all the way through this video, put this emoji in the comment section. I always appreciate when you guys do that. It means an awful lot to me and does help my videos out quite a bit. We've been doing really well on this channel, so thank you for all the engagement and people that have been posting on my stuff. You're amazing, you're awesome, I love you. Anyway, I will see you guys next week. Right now, you're looking at 2 videos you can watch if you would like to continue to sip true tea on this channel. And in the corner, there are several ways that you can send a tip if that's something that you are interested in doing. And also there is my address for you to send me any packages that you might want me to receive. I will see you guys next week. Bye.